Some call it foolishness, yet you and I both know the truth. Only those who listen to the call of the heart can experience true joy and freedom. But what do I mean by this? Let's hear the story. Your perception determines how you pursue life. Take Strickland, the main character of this story. He was a London stockbroker. It was a job he inherited from his father, who built up the business over a period of years. With his hard work, Strickland had managed to increase his earnings and now could afford for his whole family to live comfortably in the heart of London. He married a girl who was good and capable and knew how to run a house. They had 2 lovely, well-behaved children. In every sense, Strickland enjoyed a successful career, solid income, a happy family, social respect, the kind of life many people envy. But just as Strickland began to feel comfortable and pleased with his lot, something strange happened. This quiet, slightly dull, middle-aged man suddenly abandoned everything he had worked for during the first half of his life and went to Paris alone. He left behind nothing but a 10-line note telling his wife he would never return. At 40, Strickland coldly deserted his wife and children for a vague dream: becoming a painter. He moved into a garret, those cramped, dark attic rooms that poor artists are fond of, and began to paint. His first mistake was giving up a prosperous, stable life for poverty. But he made that sacrifice without hesitation. Then he began to work like a man possessed. Strickland poured all his time and energy into his painting, caring nothing for food, clothes, or shelter beyond bare survival. He took any odd job that brought quick cash, then spent every penny on oil paints and locked himself away to work. It was his second mistake, his reckless blindness. At 18, a person who starts art school might have a chance, but Strickland knew nothing about art. Now, at 40, with weak technique, he expected to become an artist. Other people thought him truly foolish, but he replied, "You are the real fool. I must paint. I cannot do otherwise." When someone falls into water, it doesn't matter whether he swims well. He either struggles to the surface or drowns. So, what is the secret of living life the way we want to? Do we need a genius mind, extraordinary talent, or sufficient money in the bank? How much does our age matter? And what if we don't have any of these? Are we condemned to fail before we begin? Must one satisfy every condition, talent, youth, security, before chasing a dream? Most people measure their choices by other people's standards of success, using their limited time to endure an unhappy life they do not love, all for the sake of conventional success. Strickland, by contrast, spends that same limited life pursuing his dream, whether it succeeds or fails, whether he gains or loses. Is that stupidity or courage? Psychologist Carl Jung observed that people invent countless tricks to avoid facing their own souls, but only those who dare face the soul are truly awake. Certainly, Strickland dares. He jumps out of his comfort zone and boldly follows his dream. And while the world laughs at his back, he continues working tirelessly. One day, his wife comes to Paris and finds him in his garret. She tells him he has hurt her deeply and asks him to return home for the sake of the children. Strickland refuses. He knows his wife will never understand him. "My world is yours," she cries. "Yours is a world of dreams." He replies, "Dreams are more real than your world of facts." We often admire heroic figures in stories like Strickland, but rarely realize they exist within us. While fulfilling our duties and meeting expectations, most of us dream of escaping. Don't we all yearn to break free from the mundane, even if just in our imagination? It's easy to criticize Strickland, but how many of us would trade places with him? How many would abandon family and career for an uncertain future? How many would rather die trying to realize our dreams than live a safe but unsatisfying life? When faced with ridicule and doubt, most people lose heart and give up. But Strickland keeps going, pouring all his love and devotion into painting. As he himself says, "To do what you love and have no regrets, that is wisdom." Somerset Maugham reminds us that each of us has a narrow stream of time. Only those who insist that life is too short and choose to live the rest of it their own way can turn that stream into a deep river or a vast sea. Now, if you think Mom is feeding you a dose of toxic positivity, you underestimate him. The philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer once said that the greatest prison on earth is human perception. What binds a person's life is not his wealth, job, or family, but his perception. Different perceptions lead to different pursuits, different definitions of happiness. Take the wife who visits her husband in Paris. Her whole world revolves around Strickland and their children, so when he leaves, her entire universe collapses. On the other hand, Strickland thinks his wife will never understand him because she is bound by convention. Thus, what feels like a betrayal to her becomes an act of liberation for him. There is no right or wrong here. Both reactions stem from love. Ultimately, it is our perception of ourselves and the world that determines what we seek and how we behave. At the end of the story, Strickland's wife goes back to London and resumes her old life, seeing him occasionally and sending him money. Their relationship changes from passionate love to peaceful coexistence. For better or worse, their paths diverge. As for Strickland, he continues painting in obscurity until his death. He may be unknown during his lifetime, but his widow later discovers that he has produced beautiful works of art. Years after reading this story, I came across this quote by the poet William Butler Yeats. How can we know the dancer from the dance? Applying this to our lives, I realize that a person is not separate from his actions, thoughts, and experiences. Our past is not a different self. It is part of us, and we are part of it. This story also reminds me of Mozart. He died thinking himself a failure, yet today we consider him a genius. Conversely, Shakespeare is another example of someone whose genius was recognized only after his death. It seems that the pursuit of dreams is a gamble. Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose. But isn't that life? There is no certainty in anything. Even if we follow the rules, we might still fail. Likewise, if we defy convention, success is far from guaranteed. In the end, it's up to us to decide what matters more, material things or supreme ideals, a treasure to clutch or a shoe to discard. These are questions each of us must answer for ourselves. Perhaps the story of Strickland simply illustrates the unpredictable nature of life. Who can say whether his decision was wise or foolish? It all depends on our point of view. What matters is that he lived his life on his own terms, however unconventional they may seem to others. He dared to follow his calling, and that makes him brave, not stupid. And so, friends, the story of Strickland challenges our conventional notions of success and failure, showing us that the real victory lies in following one's dreams and taking risks. I wonder, have you ever dreamed of making a drastic change in your life, but fear held you back? Share your thoughts in the comments. And here's a fun fact for those who have stuck with me till the end. Did you know that? The actor Robin Williams once said, "My philosophy is that if you really want to do something, you just do it. You don't call up and ask permission. You do it, and then you apologize." That's a great quote, isn't it? Well, folks, I'll leave you with it and bid you farewell. Until next time, stay curious and keep chasing your dreams.